What's up, Wizards? It's Dev. Recording this at 5 o'clock in the morning on a beautiful Monday morning because I have the weirdest sleep schedule this side of a Norwegian air traffic controller. But let's go ahead and get into day number 252 of the Grand Experiment. First card is Northern Paladin. Oh, my old friend. Okay, so this is only $30 from Unlimited Edition. That means you could probably get a heavily played copy for like $10. Not bad. You want one for revised? On the low end, that's probably going to be like $1, and I think it might be worth it for a piece of Magic history. This dude used to hit kitchen tables harder than a roast. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 white for a 3/3 human knight nowadays. Used to just be a paladin. If you pay double white and tap him, he destroys a black permanent. Wild. Just absolutely wild. Maybe not the absolute best answer to a Hypnotic Spectre, but I think that is probably the creature it has killed the most in its life. But, Lord of the Pits and stuff like that, it's probably blown up a lot. Royal Assassins, there's a lot for Northern Paladin to do. So, really cool creature from like way back in the day that is just not great anymore. But maybe if you're in a pod full of nothing but swamps, there's swamps in Commander pods. This probably does something cool, and everyone's going to be like, ooh, that's old. So, I'm just saying, I have a lot of like affinity for this card, just as a very, very old man. So I'm going to start today by giving Northern Paladin the honorary 5. I am. I really do think you could make an argument for this in certain pods, but that's kind of a cop-out way of saying really low power pods with swamps in them, right? A very niche. You gotta thread the needle here, but it could work. Next is Lost Soul. Okay, so another old school card. Not as much of a banger this time. This is originally from Legends. It is 3 mana, 1 and double black for a 2/1 Swamp Walk. It is a spirit minion nowadays, but it used to be a Lost Soul. What a creature type. It's a fun card, I guess. Mostly for looking at, and not just for bonk reasons, but also because I like the actual background of it. You don't see a whole lot of Randy Asplin Faith stuff. Like Melissa Benson, Douglas Schuler, Anson Maddox, Amy Weber, Mark Teaton. There's a lot of old school Magic artists that you think of when you think of Magic the Gathering, and I just feel like Randy's not really in that group, even though Randy did a lot of work back in the day. Either way, this is not a good Magic card. I'm so sorry, Lost Soul. You are like again though, a lot of swamps and commander pots. I'm not going to be that guy. There's a reason they stopped printing land walk abilities, though. They're really, really good. So, I don't know. I'm going to give this like a 2, though. I do like swamp walk. Got an Urborg in your deck, maybe. Next is Cathartic Power. That is not how the card looks. This is 2 mana, 1 and a red for an instant. Choose one. Either it deals 3 to a creature or planeswalker, or you discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards. This is a good card. This is just an overall solid Magic card. It's going to blow up a lot of creatures, some really, important commanders and other stuff that people like to do in that format. But obviously a lot of decks want to draw cards. A lot of decks want to churn and play instants and sorceries and get, triggers for that. They want to discard cards so they can do stuff in their graveyard or reanimate or whatever. There's a lot of, different stuff this card can do. So I've always been a fan of Cathartic Power. I think it's like one of the better versions of like a lightning strike workaround that we've like ever seen. I really do. So I like it a good bit. I'm actually going to give this card a 5. I think that it's like playable in Commander, depending on the circumstance, But Magister Sphinx. All right. This is from Conflux. This is 7 mana. 4 and Esper. That's a lot for a 5/5 Sphinx with flying. When it comes into play, target player's life total becomes 10. It's always been fun text to read. This is kind of a balmy looking card, but I don't know that it actually is, especially nowadays. You can only target one opponent with this in Commander, and that's, it's going to probably end their game soon thereafter. But then what? I guess you blink it? Yeah, right? You blink it. You make somebody else's life total 10. You could always use it on yourself. If you're like 2 or something, 2 or 3, I guess this gains you some life. So that's another way to use it, I should at least point out. But, it's kind of unimpressive, I think, in today's Commander. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's ways to, blink this every turn. I'm going to put Sarah at 10. I'm going to put Tabitha at 10. I'm going to put Mark at 10. And then I guess since Samantha gained some life, was that even Sandra? Was that the first one I used? Since Sandra gained some life, I guess we'll put her back at 10. It's just not like great. I'm gonna give this like a 4.7. Like there's some use to it, but it's not. I don't think it's as good as it looks, really. Never was. Mask of Memory is up next. This is from Warhammer, apparently. No, it's from Mirrodin. 2 mana. Oh, no, I know you now that I see this artwork. 2 mana for an equipment that equips for 1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card from your hand. What's wrong with that? I guess it costs mana. That's it. You know, I know it's only 3, you know, to play and then equip, but it still costs mana, which is real. Really is. The creature has to get through for combat damage, but I guess in any commander deck where you're getting through with unblockable creatures or something like that, a Yumizawa deck or whatever, you know, there's things you could do with this, and maybe in kind of a Voltron that cares about drawing cards. Most decks do care about drawing cards. Discarding a card isn't a big deal considering you're getting, you know, 2 fresh cards. It's really, really good. So I like this. I think it's actually pretty efficient, even though, as I've said, it costs mana. Cards cost mana. I don't know how to break it to you, you know, but, you know, I still think it's fairly efficient for, again, niche commander decks, but I'm actually going to give this a 4.95. I think that we're really, really close to sort of what I'm looking for in a Magic card on average here, if I'm going to play it in a deck. So, you know, I think it's not bad. And maybe I'm giving it too much crap, you know, like maybe it's actually less niche than I think, but again, I'm probably not going to slot this into anything unless I specifically care about like making a creature unblockable or something like that. So some decks, sure. Old Sarah Angel. Let's look at that Douglas Schuler. Let's look at old Douglas Schuler stuff. Yeah, that's the good stuff right there. Originally printed in the way back. Did you know this, by the way? Did you know this? The foreign Sarah Angel got printed as Time Elementals art and also border. It's some very, very weird stuff. But, you know, Sarah Angel is 5 mana, 3. You know what Sarah Angel is, right? Maybe you're new around here. 5 mana for a 4/4 flying vigilance. That's the entire card. Pretty drafty, uncommon nowadays, isn't it? You know, if there's any proof of power creep in the world, it might be Sarah Angel. This is actually the win condition, or one of the win conditions, in maybe the most famous Magic deck of all time, especially the most famous Magic deck of a time, which was just called The Deck, pioneered by Brian Weissman. And it's probably the most important deck in Magic for 5 years towards the beginning of its life. So Sarah Angel has, you know, some history and relevance just because of that deck. But again, when it comes to kitchen tables, this is even more of a scourge than Northern Paladin, if you can believe it. No, seriously, Sarah Angel was an amazing creature back in the day. You know, she flies in for a fifth of your life total every turn and then stays up to block, and it's really hard to get through a creature this large. And white has decent removal like Swords to Plowshares and stuff to kind of keep your dudes off the board, and it just flies over for 4 inevitably and wins the game. So like Sarah Angel, maybe one of the first, you know, control win conditions in blue-white control decks with, you know, 4 counterspells, 4 power sinks, 4 Sarah Angels. So again, really does have its place in Magic history, and I can give out more than 1 honorary 5 a day. There is no rule against that, so I'm going to do it. Honorary 5 for Sarah, because it would break my heart to really judge this card. It really would. In today's dollars, it ain't worth much. But we'll look at Obsessive Stitcher up next. This is from Core Set 21. This is 3 mana, 1 a blue and a black for a 0/3 human wizard. Tap to draw a card and then discard a card. Or pay 2 blue-black, tap, sacrifice, return target creature card from your yard to the battlefield. So one of these, you know, we got a couple of these in standard right now. Valgavoss Faithful, probably the most known one. But, you know, when you look at this compared to Valgavoss Faithful, I think Faithful is much, much better. It comes onto the table on turn 1. And it could come onto the table on turn 3 along with a 2-drop, maybe some removal. So again, I think there's better ways to play that card. But you get a loot effect here, and I'm always a big fan of loot effects. So I don't think it's the worst card, but you're probably more likely to throw this in a cube than you are a commander deck. So points off, I'm going to give this a 4.5. I think that if I'm going to play, no, I'm going to give this a 4.2, actually. I do like a removal or a reanimation spell on a body, and I do like lootation. So, like, there's a lot of good stuff that this card does, but I think you can probably do better for 3 mana in just about any format, except for limited. So, again, you're putting together a very specific cube environment, and like the card might have a place, you know. Jace Mirror Mage up next from Zendikar Rising. This is 3 mana, 1 and 2 blue for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. You can kick it for 2. When Jace Mirror Mage enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create a token that is a copy of it, except it's not legendary, and its starting loyalty is 1. +1 Jace or his mirror image to scry 2. You can 0 Jace to draw a card and reveal it. Remove a number of loyalty counters equal to that card's converted mana cost from Jace Mirror Mage. So you can probably use the 0 when this comes into play, depending on how you've got your deck curved out, and he'll survive. And if it draws, if it sees a land, it'll always survive. So that's not so bad. If you've done some scrying, you can make it to where the Mirror Mage won't die either, but it's obviously much easier to kill it on accident by drawing a card off of this. But, you can scry with the Mirror Mage and then use the actual Jace to draw the card without too much penalties. There's a lot of cool stuff about kicking this, and kicking it is only 5 mana for 2 Planeswalkers, which is actually a lot harder to deal with in Commander even than it seems. But honestly, I'm not sure how good a lot of Planeswalkers are. I know there's some top-end Planeswalkers people play for, going over the top purposes in Commander, but this probably is not one of them necessarily. But there might be fun stuff you can do to copy the token, because the token isn't legendary. So again, there's some niche sort of playability on this, but all in all, I'm not too impressed. I wasn't impressed when I first read it. Still not that impressed now. So I'm going to give this a 4.3. No, I'm going to give this a 4.5. It's still like a card that gives you 2 Planeswalkers, and I guess I shouldn't necessarily undervalue that, right? So I'll move on to Tribute to the Wild. This is from Commander 2011. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an instant. Each opponent sacrifices an artifact or enchantment. Okay, so got a little 3-for-1 here. It's not terrible. And it's probably going to hit everybody, too. Everyone's got one of these things. They probably just sack a mana rock or something, but you still got a good amount of mana value, I would assume. And even if you don't get... Well, no, if they sack 3 Soul Rings, you still get 1 mana value out of it. That's pretty good. I'm going to give this... I'm going to give this a 5. Is that too high? They do have some control, right? They sacrifice, but still 3-for-1 for 2 mana at instant speed. Yeah, I think that's a playable Magic card. 5, for sure. We'll move on to Tome Scour, our apparent final card of the day. We always do a bonus card, though, on the first day of the week, and most other days, too. This is from Magic 2010. It costs a single blue mana for a sorcery. Target player puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. That is pretty great, man. Again, you're not going to do this in Commander too often, but this is a mill card. This is one of the more famous, burn 5 off the top of their library. This is a card that basically every hardcore mill player at a certain, history of Magic, like a certain, 5-year time span played. So... yeah, Tome Scour you got to give some credit to, but I'm just going to give this a 3.2 because it's really fine in the one deck in 1v1s, but it's really not good anywhere else. So, yeah, I'll give it a 3.2 because it shows up. The next is Trocratus from Born of the Gods. This is the bonus card of the day. 7 mana, 5 and 2 blue for an 8/8 legendary Kraken. It has hexproof unless it's attacking or blocking. Okay. And it can't be blocked unless all creatures defending player controls block it. That's funny. So it's got the super lure on it, unless they just don't want to block it. They get a choice on that, but, they're going to take 8. Pretty crazy. But the moment you swing in with it, it loses its hexproof, so maybe they just have like a 2 mana removal spell for it. I probably wouldn't go in with this, but it is pretty hilarious. Like, all things considered, this is a bomb of a Magic card. But another one that's probably more for, like, cubing than it is for just sticking in your Commander deck and, like, hoping that everything works out. I guess there are some cards that care about like Krakens, Leviathans, Serpents, Octopus, right? So like maybe this goes in, but like that's the most niche use case in the video, and that's saying something considering I've said niche like 8 times. Should probably use a different word. The card is obviously narrow, so I'm just gonna give this like a 3.5, mostly for cool factor. That's it for today, everybody. Join me Tuesday for 10 more cards. I can promise you that. It's going to happen. Love you. Bye.